I know Dr. Nelson was going to try to.
Okay.
Oh, you are? Oh, good. I didn't see you jump on. And I have to assume I haven't heard an update from Dr. Potts in a long time, but my understanding is he is still struggling right now. So we should be ready to start if you are ready to start, sir.
Yes, I'm ready to go. I was trying to work up a multiple screen presentation with a couple of links, and my laptop just went south on me, and I tried very quickly to reboot it, and it didn't want to, and so finally I decided I had to try the cell phone routine, and that's the reason why I'm going to be on the phone instead of on the monitor with everybody else. Okay. Well, let's see. Tonight we have the agenda as noted. Let me get my stuff pulled up here. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. And tonight we're going to look at the Board of Health minutes from September 24th, 2020, and we'll get our approval of the minutes here. And if everybody's ready, or if you would like a minute or so, we'll go ahead and let you review those. And then, Christine, if you can just let me know when you think everybody's ready to go.
I think we are ready.
Okay. All approve the Board of Health minutes for the previous meeting. Raise your right hand, and I'll let Christina take a nose count.
It looks like we have everyone I can see is an aye, and it looks like everybody else is raising their hands or a thumbs up. Dr. Nelson, I'm going to assume you're a thumbs up too?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I tried to send it.
You're fine. Okay.
Great. Okay. Well, since our last meeting, I know there have been a number of conversations and just a lot of reading and checking out the latest and greatest information about the coronavirus. And so Dr. Morris, he's done a fair amount of work and has some things that he would like to share. And Terry, if you would like to go ahead and share what you have gleaned since our last visit.
Oh, I just have been looking at data and uncovered some interesting things. I don't know any more than anybody else. Christina, does the share screen work on this? Do you know?
It should work.
Let's see.
There's no reason why it shouldn't.
Can you see what I'm showing up here?
Yes, you are now full screen with your screen. Okay. And I see Show Me Strong Recovery Plan.
Yep. This is the Missouri's plan from with today's data. And the interesting part of this, we know that our positivity rate has been significantly higher than what the CDC would like. And largely that's because we don't do as much testing as other people. But I thought an interesting way that the state posts this data is this 11.6% includes people that have 4 tests over the course of a week, and one of them is positive. If you take it out where it's only the number of people that had the test and had it positive, Missouri's rate is at 23.5%. So 23.5% of the people in the state of Missouri who take a COVID test have a positive result, which means we're basically only testing sick people. I don't think we're looking for anybody that was exposed except maybe my grandson and his family. But I thought that was an interesting number, an interesting way for Missouri to present that. Um, this is today's regional data. Some sort of kind of good things. We're down to 24 deaths per week. That's down by 5 from what it was last week. Our ICU census is going up. The number of patients in the hospital is going up. The daily admissions is going up. We're up. Daily admissions is up 7%. Hospital census is up 8.5%. ICU census is up. Ventilator use is down a little bit. I was talking to Ralph earlier. The deal with our new hospitalizations and the fact that the death rate goes down is most people don't die from COVID for 14 to 21 days after they're hospitalized. That's kind of on the average. So the fact that our death rate is going down doesn't necessarily mean that we're getting better. This was another interesting piece that came off the MARC website, though, and it's just Jackson County, not including Kansas City, Missouri. And what I found interesting about this is the new daily hospitalizations since we kind of started looking at this thing. And as you can see, it's steadily going up. That's today, which was 19.4 per day. And that's so those are the people from Independence, Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Eastern Jackson County, not including Kansas City, Mo.
I don't think the screen, I see that there's another slide, which I think has the MARC COVID hub, but it looks on my screen, at least it still looks like the state plan.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
I'll tell you what, let me do this a different way then. That's the state. Can you see it now?
Yes, there's the regional metrics, and
Okay.
there's the hospitalizations.
So here's the hospitalization. So this is today, and we put, well, this is yesterday, they put 19.4 patients in from Eastern Jackson County, not including KC-Mo. But this number here, which was on the 14th, so 2 weeks ago, that was 25.9 per day, which is actually higher than the peak that we had back in July. So our incidence of illness that's severe enough to put people in the hospital, and we're probably percentage-wise putting less people in the hospital, is going up significantly. And we actually kind of hit a record here a few days ago. The only other factors I looked at, because my grandson is currently housebound because the kid that sat next to him at Blue Springs South has COVID, is what a good job Independence is doing. If you look at the numbers that were updated from today, we've got 0.11% active cases in the students and staff, and a 0.17% that are on quarantine. I compared that to Blue Springs. Not that Blue Springs is bad at all. They're not, but we're doing as well as they were. They're actually a 0.19%. And the number of people quarantined is significantly higher, almost twice as what Independence is at 1.7%. So that was just some data that I saw and I thought was interesting. So I'd like to say, gee, we're getting a whole lot better, but we're not, but we're holding our own, and we're working hard, particularly the school districts. And I was pretty impressed by their data. They're doing a great job.
So, Dr.
I don't know
Morris,
if you know, Dr. Morris, that states or schools were given the opportunity for antigen testing. The rapid testing that can be done in school now, and it's a choice regarding kids with permission. But I think all the districts around here chose to participate. I don't know about kids, but at least to have the test available for their adults that they can use in their district to identify individuals. There's a pretty significant reporting requirement that goes along with it, but that should be rolling out here in short order.
That is correct. We're going to be doing that here in Independence.
Dr. Morris or Dr. Nelson, can you all speak to the
You still there, Jason?
Jason, I think you froze.
Overloaded his computer, I guess. Well, Terry, do you have any other points of interest that you wanted to share?
Not really. I think Jason's got some things to talk about that went on in the city level. We had a resolution that was brought up to the last city council meeting that suggested that the city do away with Jackson County's COVID restriction guidelines. It was voted down. I spoke, and one of the local pastors spoke, and an epidemiologist spoke, and Sarah Wimberly, who's a local pastor, spoke, and there's a similar ordinance or a similar resolution that's being brought up this week, apparently, and I think Jason probably wants to address that. I'd like to say we're getting better, but we're just hanging in there.
Okay. While we wait on Jason, do you have anything else that you wanted to add in terms of the things the comment that Jason made and was wanting to address? Dr. Morris?
You mean regarding the resolution?
Yes, or anything else that you thought he might be wanting to bring to the table here?
Oh, I suspect he'll be back here in a minute, most likely, and one way or another can address that. The resolution that's coming up. I think from what I understand, he'd like the advisory board to the Board of Health to suggest that maybe the city council come to us for some advice. I did write one of the councilmen that put forward the previous resolution. I wrote him the Saturday after the Tuesday night meeting and did not get a response from him. He was pretty upset at the meeting and suggested that everybody sit down and have some conversations about what we can do to help businesses and to protect health and make things better.
That does, the business world is definitely being affected quite a bit by all of this, and that's a difficult conversation to have. It really takes into account a lot of lives and hard work that people have put into those businesses, and this quarantining process is definitely not an easy process on small businesses, especially the small businesses, which are the ones that are the heartbeat of America's economy. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and Christine, the activities risk chart that we were talking about earlier, can you bring that up and put it onto the screen for everybody to take a look at, or pass the link out to everyone if you want to have them bring it up on their own computer?
Of course, I can do that. This is one that Jason shared with us, and you will have to give me a moment to find it. While I'm doing that, I will go ahead and talk and just fill in the space and let you guys know. The city did, of course, start our testing this week. Well, actually, we started last week. And I will go ahead and share this link in our chat.
I still show Dr. Morris's shared screen.
Shared screen. I just went ahead and put the link to it in the chat box since everybody's not going to be able to see it who's on the phone. It's just it's a very nice little graphic that shows the different risks for activities. So it starts with low risk activities like having takeout food or exercising outside. And then it goes to medium risk, such as having a small dinner party indoors, getting a haircut. And it goes up to high risk activities like attending a wedding or funeral, going to a bar indoors, going to a nightclub, and just how those are ranked. And it came from the New York Times, Reuters, NPR, a whole bunch of them essentially got together, and 500 plus epidemiologists and health professionals came together and said, if we were going to group different activities, this is how we would group them to show how risky it is in the life of COVID. I've seen this sort of graphic. I think the CDC has one that essentially just is levels and bars that go up from high risk to low risk. I mean, it's an interesting way to look at things and to determine. I know Meg, our PIO, has shared different ones, and I actually shared this with her today to see if she wanted to share it on our Facebook page or our Twitter feed. I know sometimes, of course, this is something that anytime we share anything that's related to COVID on Facebook or Twitter, there's a lot of conversation that's generated and a lot of comments generated. So it'll be interesting. But the city's trying to do their part. We've started our testing clinics and our testing sites, and I know today was our first one that was open to the public, and we had 200 slots available, and we had 200 people booked for today. We had 240 slots available for tomorrow, and we had 240 slots filled by last night. So I'm hoping that everybody is showing up. I was out there working it until it came time for me to leave and come home and get ready for you guys. So it seems to be a success. It seems to be pretty easy. We are there to walk people through who have issues, because you do have to register the kit online when you're doing it. So those who don't have a smartphone, we're there with tablets hooked up to Wi-Fi to go ahead and register it for them and walk them through the process. We want to be able to make sure that anyone and everyone who wants a test can take a test. So we're doing our best to try to help people through.
Christina, what kind of test are you doing? Are you doing the saliva test or nasal swab, or?
We're doing the saliva-based test.
Okay.
We've gotten a lot of flack for that, but the honest answer is we have our Medical Reserve Corps, whom we love, but we have loaned them out. Of course, it's the regional. It's the Medical Reserve Corps of Kansas City. So although they're based here with the City of Independence, and we take care of those volunteers, we have loaned them out all across the region. And we didn't want to pull them back and tell, WyanDOT that they didn't need them anymore so that we could do our testing, because they need them too. So we tried to choose something that we wouldn't need medical personnel for, that we could do a relatively large scale clinic with few people. It's difficult, but we're able to run the clinic with 4 people, 1 to check people in, 1 to take your specimen when you're done, and 2 to help people as they go. You're hopping the whole time when you're doing it. We would love to have more volunteers. If there's more volunteers with extra time, we'd love for you guys to come. But it's something where we can test 200 people and only need four people there to do it. So.
Well, it sounds like you're making some headway, and definitely it's a lot of work, and you're to be commended for all the hard work you're putting into this. And the city we've got a lot of great employees that work hard, and with all of this extra work that the coronavirus has created, it's definitely been a challenge for, I'm sure, a lot of people with the jobs they may have had that were already busy. The increased work doesn't make it any easier, I'm sure. Christina?
Yes.
Do you have a code number? I think I might be able to join the team meeting if I have the right code.
Well, I don't, for this one for you, it should just be the linker for you on Teams to be able to do it. There's only a code for the call-in. It does look, though, like we might have Jason back on the line with us.
Okay, great.
I'm back via phone. I'm sorry for my technological problem.
Well, I know how it feels, Jason.
Is this a good time, Mr. Chairman, to ask? I was just curious what the status of the hospitals in Eastern Jack, or maybe it's a Metro response, but I between Dr. Morris and Dr. Nelson, I didn't know if they could impart to us how we're doing with hospital capacity still.
Hey, it's Daryl. Happy to update you all if this is a good time, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, it is. Let's go right ahead.
So earlier in the week, we had our citywide chief medical officer call, and Dr. Stites from the University of Kansas leads that at least weekly. Occasionally, we meet twice weekly. And throughout this whole pandemic, we've been unofficially reporting our counts through our group. And starting last week, for the first time since July, as was referenced earlier, we bypassed our inpatient census citywide for COVID patients. Overall, mortality rates have trended down and ventilator rates have trended down. So Terry, I felt like you literally had an inside, and the data told the story we at least reviewed earlier this week very accurately. The flip side of that discussion was there was a follow-up conversation on our call with some folks from public health, I think Wyandotte and Johnson on that particular call, and it carried over to the Missouri side with an individual, I'm trying to remember, maybe with Mark or somewhere, that showed some data, and I think we've had somebody on our board who's maybe worked in this sector in the past, that reflected that we're in great shape. That across the metro, we have 2,400 open med-surg beds and 400 open ICU beds. And what prompted that discussion was there was a attempted transfer from a rural hospital out about 60 miles east late last week, and they could not find an ICU bed for a patient on a ventilator anywhere in the metro. So there's been some ongoing discussion throughout the week, as we've discussed on our board, trying to understand the consistency of the data, which all of us report daily, and then it gets dropped into, as you can imagine, a series of different databases all across. So the bottom line is the hospitals are really feeling the effect of this recent surge. It's more about overall volume than it is ICU and ventilator capacity, but it's very palpable. In addition, we're struggling like everybody with increased staff who are positive with illness or who are caring for family members. We still see very low rates, as I've shared with all of you before, of work-based transmission. I think we're less than 1% of all of our positive cases that we could definitively contact trace back to exposure in the workplace. The majority, typically, like most, are being afflicted through family, friends, or some community exposure. So we still feel good about our ability to protect our staff, but we're suffering the implications of the growing prevalence rate on our workforce, like many are. So there was a preliminary planned follow-up call for tomorrow to try to get at this huge discrepancy in what some of the reported data is suggesting about bed capacity and availability. And depending upon the institution or the system, it isn't necessarily a physical bed issue as much as it's a staffed bed issue. And I think I've shared with our board through this pandemic, particularly in the early months afterward when everybody was right sizing when the hospitals emptied out, we've struggled to kind of get back up to speed a lot across a lot of our different skilled nurse positions, as well as our ancillary care positions in most of our institutions. So that's the concern, is trying to get staffed up here and get additional beds online as the capacity issue continues to challenge us. Data is just starting to show a little bit of influenza activity. It's not overzealous yet, but it is just starting to show. So there's some concern in theory about how significant or not that may be, coupled with obviously the continued COVID activity. So I think in a nutshell, we're really on point at this juncture, trying to manage day-to-day just bed capacity issues. We rarely as an institution just philosophically go on diversion, and we've spent between 20 and 40% of the past couple of weeks at Centerpoint alone on diversion for any inbound transfers. And our rates are usually in the single digits. I mean, we philosophically just don't believe in doing that. Now, we do not, with rare exception, go on any sort of a diversion or high volume status for time critical diagnosis or trauma. So strokes, heart attacks, trauma care, that continues essentially always despite our inpatient bed status. We just have to protect taking transfers in so we have some capacity to deal with the time critical diagnoses. So that's where we're at philosophically. Different hospitals and different health systems have different ways in which they manage their status when we're near capacity.
Well, it sounds like you've been rather busy.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. It's been just a really interesting time to think back just a few months ago, and we were looking around Centerpoint with 124 patients in a almost 300 bed hospital, and now we're consistently up there in the mid 200s. And if we could staff up, we could probably be, nearly every physical bed full or very close, I would say, at least over the past week or two.
The last time we met, I had talked about the idea of masks and, PPE equipment in general. We're looking at the idea that even for professionals, it's a difficult thing to maintain your protocol and minimize the contamination and the issue of passing on the virus. And the thought that I have, I've yet to see any kind of instruction or any kind of help for the general public in terms of just the educational process. And, the idea of, it's just a mask, you put it on, you wear it, and that's all you got to do. And it's more than that. And in order to be able to maintain the viability and purpose for which the mask is being worn, I would think that, even if we could increase 10, 15, 20, 25% rate of effectiveness, that would be a nice improvement, and it could help in that process of turning the corner and making this whole thing a shorter-lived experience and not drag it on so long. Do you see any viability or any
I probably don't have good evidence about what impact that could offer, at least scientifically, in the community, but I can certainly tell you that we train, retrain, and then we round to make sure about what we call the donning and doffing of PPE is being done properly, because that is certainly where, for healthcare workers for sure, and I would imagine it carries over to the community as well, that, you know, inappropriate use of any of those pieces of equipment can increase your risk of either infecting yourself or being a vector to transmit to others. And we've had an ongoing evolution of our guidance about masks, as you've heard me talk in the past. When we were concerned about our PPE supplies, we went through timeframes when we reprocessed or did some, frankly, marginally proven tactics to try to extend use, particularly of masks and to a lesser degree gowns. And the good news is that you know, we have drawn this out long enough, and some people struggled with that concept early on, that we've been able to spool up at least equipment supplies to be okay. So we're not having to repurpose masks and or reuse any sort of personal equipment. That certainly would be a consideration if there's some thought about ongoing education to the community, appropriate use. So,
well, that's what I'm basically looking at, and I really think that there's, you know, it's not something I'm aware of, and so if there isn't anything, maybe, you know, that could make a difference. Any other thoughts from the board and any other comments regarding these, your own ideas or thoughts that you've had regarding the issue of your personal protective equipment?
You know, having worn it most of my last 45 years, you know, I can't tell you the number of times I scratched my nose in the middle of an operation and then had to change my gown and my mask and my gloves. And you know, you go to the grocery store and it takes you about 30 seconds to run into a chin masker and to watch people pull their masks out of their pocket, you know, where they're going to stick their hand to get their chewing gum or to scratch their eye in about 30 seconds. And, you know, the general public just really has no concept of the appropriate way to deal with that. You know, the outside of your mask is infective if you ran into somebody that had it, and the inside of your mask is infective if you have it, and people just can't comprehend that. I mean, you take off your mask and you put it in a safe place, and then you wash your hands or sanitize your hands because you touched the outside of your mask. But I don't know, unless we can some way pirate the political ad time space, that you're going to educate people, and I'm not sure of the receptiveness of the general population to that education. So,
yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy, because professionals even have a tough time with it. So, any other ideas or thoughts anybody wants to share? Okay, hearing none, I believe today's conversation may be pretty much over.
Dr. Ruckman,
yes.
I'm sorry, Jason here. I thought we were still on the mask issue. I do want to bring to the board's attention the resolution that is on the city council agenda again, and make sure they're aware of that. And I do have. We threw it together quick, but I do have, depending on the discussion and the desires of the board, a resolution to provide back to the city council. So if it's appropriate at this time, I'm happy to approach that topic, sir.
Yes, it's time to move on and address the issue that you were going to bring up earlier.
So as you may be aware, a week and a half ago, the city council and the process is that the resolutions can be brought forward and they become visible to the public on Thursday night or Friday when the agenda is made public. and then the action is on the following Monday night. So it leaves very little time for public to understand what resolutions are about, and let alone voice their concerns. So 2 weeks ago now, a resolution was proposed that was to direct the Jackson County Health Department to roll back their protective orders within 30 days, or the city would sue the county in some fashion. That resolution, Dr. Morris spoke, Reverend Pastor Sarah Wimberly spoke, Garland Land spoke, and Dr. Bridget McCandless spoke at the council meeting, and that failed to advance. Another version of that same resolution became visible about 2 hours ago as the agenda became public. I've emailed that out, but I know you all are busy, so unless you're watching real close, you may not have spotted it yet. The action, the moneyed quote in it is the following, quote, that should the Jackson County Health Department fail to eliminate all restrictions in its COVID-19 recovery policies within the next 30 days, the Independent City Council will determine how to move forward with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on behalf of the citizens and business community they represent. The prior page is really the same language. It may be exactly, but speaking to the impact on businesses and such. I would advance to the board the idea of doing what I view to be our responsibility, and that's speak to the council and the mayor and the citizens with the opinion of the Board of Health. And so I threw together, and I don't know, Christina, maybe you've got the ability to put it up on the screen, because I shared it with a few to just try to get feedback as we were doing quick drafting.
Jason, I've got it here. Let me pop it up for you.
Thank you. I will apologize. I threw it together. A couple of you got eyes on it to see if it was in the ballpark. Then late, like 10 minutes before 6, somebody recommended, should the board have essentially 2 options? So the first part of that material is essentially an effort on my behalf to project what I understood the current status to be, and I believe it's an attempt to reflect what was said, only I assumed what was going to be said from what I'm aware of in the nature of the issue in the region. Then at the very bottom of it, I tried to meld 2 ideas together. That was, if the council wishes us to wade in on a specific question or comment, then that's a roll. And then to confuse the world even more, the very, very last sentence was, if you want to just say, hey, we're happy to review anything, there's a 1-sentence resolution that gets that across. So I've really got 2 resolutions, draft resolutions on 1 page for your consideration. I apologize for the lateness of this, but literally I think we got eyeballs on the resolution at about 4:30 today, and that's new. I personally would advocate, and I, as the scribbler of that, I am open to people's grammatical corrections and changes in content, because resolutions are the will of a body, of a collective, and I certainly respect that. And this thing didn't get much drafting time. But my personal vote is that we do speak to the council as they have before them a resolution that I personally find problematic. I've not heard from our people that are knowledgeable and experienced in this area, nor have I personally read anything that leads me to believe now is the time to step back. And from my understanding, to open up even our businesses more, then many of them are high propensity areas, bars, restaurants, areas of people being confined, closely engaged and without masks while they're eating or drinking. And so I'm troubled by the last resolution and this one, and I will, after appropriate discussion, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to move the first resolution that's there that essentially says we don't believe it's time to roll back our protections, but we do stand willing to engage if the council or individual members have topics they would like us to consider. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, so you're proposing this this resolution, and at this point, we would need to read it. I presume, Christina, we would need for you to read through it and then discuss it.
If you would like, I can go ahead and read the different versions in its entirety as Jason shared. There are a couple of different ones there. I can read it aloud for those who weren't able to read it, possibly.
Can I ask, on what basis does the city even have any authority to? They can make a resolution, but can they enforce it? I don't know. Do they have any authority to do this? Do they? I don't know.
Well, it was interesting at the city council meeting because the original resolution that was brought up had three sections at the end, and one of which was bringing suit against the county, which the legal staff actually said we couldn't do even if we wanted to. And I'm not sure that we'd have to ask legal staff. I'm not sure that we're in charge of enforcing it as it is. I think it's the county that does that, but is that incorrect, Christina?
Well, the city voluntarily enforces the different parts of the order. We have an agreement with the county that our staff, because we also permit so many of those facilities, you know, we're already in there. We already have a relationship with a lot of those facilities, whether it's for business licensing or whether it's for a food permit. We already have those relationships with the proprietors. So we said we would like to go ahead and will enforce these different orders. And I believe Diane Egger had given a presentation to the council where she explained, you know, exactly what she does to reach voluntary compliance. Now we could, I mean, of course, we could stop doing that and have the county come in and do enforcement. I mean, I wouldn't say anything is outside the realm of possibility because it's 2020 and I would have told you we weren't going to be here 9 months ago. So I'm not sure exactly. I did not draft this and I just saw it for the first time today also, so I can't speak to what the plan would be.
No, this particular resolution really is just an encouragement to stay the course and to maintain the status quo. And so, I'd like to think that there might be something that we could consider for these people that have concerns about their businesses and such. I don't know. I just I really feel for for those who are looking at the issue that they have a business and they can't run it, and not an easy thing to see your business going down the losing ground and such. So anyway, I don't know what can be said or done to be considered help for those individuals, but I definitely think and believe in staying the course, but would like to think there might be something that we could come up with that might make a difference and So keep your thinking caps going, and you never know when somebody might come up with something rather unique, but something effective.
Well, and I know one of Jason's write-ups does talk about the board is ready to review and advise on any issues related to COVID-19. And he talks about providing thoughtful and science-based recommendations to the council, the mayor, and the citizens. He also has a very short one, which says the Independence Advisory Board of Health requests the opportunity to formally review Resolution 20-803 and its potential impact on public health and provide a formal report back to the City Council prior to any City Council action on the proposed resolution. And then his first one is one that talks about the negative impact of COVID-19. The number of cases are going up in our metropolitan area. And it says that the Board of Health reviewed the present status of COVID-19 and Independence in the region, as well as the ongoing efforts to mitigate the pandemic, and supports the present precautions as required by the public health orders issued by Jackson County. I mean, this is obviously totally up to the board which direction you guys want to go, if any. I just need feedback. I'm more than willing to put it on pretty paper and make sure it gets to the right people, but this is something that has to come from you guys.
Okay, Jason, what's your thoughts?
Well, I wanted, as it evolved in the last couple of hours, my effort was to forward the board two options for consideration, and certainly Christina's correct. There's a third one of doing nothing. I personally favor the first the first resolution there that speaks to our hospitals are challenged, our number of cases are going up. Now's not the time to back off, but it does include a sentence referencing that if they want to provide stuff to us, we're happy to review that and report back. I prefer that, and I'm ready to make a motion to the board to consider that resolution, because I think part of our role is education, as Dr. Ruckman has been saying, around masks, and so I would presume that whatever we say will be introduced Monday as part of their conversation. And so that becomes part of our effort to educate our neighbors and our friends and our family, and as well as the council. So I would like to take that effort to say, and I mean, I keep saying, minus one layperson on this board, me, this is a really damn good board. I mean, very engaged, experienced, talented medical professionals. And so I think this board has a message and a platform in which to speak to help inform the public and hopefully promote good policy. So I would, unless you tell me to shut up, I'll move that the Board of Health consider the first resolution as Christina had read, which is the long one.
Do we have a second?
I second. This is Dr. Morris.
Any comments? Any discussion? Well, hearing none, I'll move that we vote on this resolution. And Christine, if you could count the ayes and the nays. Raise your right hand, or raise the hand on this program, I guess.
Well, those who are on the phone may not be able to. So if you'd like, I can just call out names real quick and go through.
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Ruckman?
Yay.
Dr. Morris?
Yes.
Kathleen Bennett?
Yes.
Dr. Ruddy?
Yes.
Jason White?
Yes.
Lori Halsey? She may have gotten off. I don't see her on here now. Dr. Wingert?
Yes.
Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes. I will
Okay,
go
thank you,
ahead.
Christine.
I will go ahead and get the first motion as written onto, into the proper format. And tomorrow I will go ahead and get it along with our meeting minutes forwarded over to the council to the full council.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right. We have, I believe, just one more thing to talk about or mention, and that's Kathleen Bennett, our one of our nurse members, and she has come to the end of her career with our board. She's been on the board since June 16th, 1997, and so she has is wanting to take, I believe, probably more time with her family and wants to come and go more freely. And as a result, she's gonna leave the board. And so this is her last meeting with us at this point. So Kathleen, I'd like to thank you for all your years of service and all the quality time that you've spent with the board and the efforts that you've made to make this community a better place, a healthier place, and a place that people will want to come and raise their families. And so thank you for your service, and may God bless you and your journey and the adventure that's yet to be lived throughout the years ahead. So take care and God bless.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other thoughts or business that anybody has and wants to bring up at this time? Hearing none, I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye now.
Good night, everyone.